My wife and daughter staged fake affairs, so I played smarter and left them broke and exposed. Cassandra Hart stood before her full-length mirror, studying her reflection with the same calculating precision she applied to everything in her life. Her fitted black dress hugged every curve, a testament to countless hours at her private Pilates studio. At 48, she still turned heads, and she knew it. A small smile played at the corners of her red-painted lips as she fastened a diamond tennis bracelet, one of many gifts from Trent over their 23 years of marriage. "Mum," Amara's voice carried through the master bedroom door. "Are you decent? Come in, darling." Cassie adjusted her hair, letting it fall in artificial waves over her shoulders. The door opened, revealing her daughter's reflection in the mirror. All long limbs and sharp edges. A younger version of herself, but with an added layer of calculation that sometimes made Cassie proud and sometimes made her nervous. "Hot date," Amara smirked, flopping onto the king-size bed. Her phone never left her hand, thumbs scrolling continuously. Through social media, even as she spoke, Cassie turned, studying her daughter's snowing expression. "Just dinner with friends, right?" Amara's eyebrow arched. "The same friends you've been having dinner with 3 times this week. Dad's still at the office, by the way. Coletto say he's working late again." "Of course he is." Cassie's voice hardened slightly. She reached for her perfume bottle. Not her usual scent. Something newer, spicier. "Your father's always working late. These days, the firm needs him after all. The whole world would collapse without Trent Hart burning the midnight oil. You could just tell him, you know." Amara sat up, finally setting her phone aside about Michael. "Or is it David this week?" Cassie's hand froze mid-spray. "I don't know what you're talking about. Please." Amara rolled her eyes. "I'm not stupid, Mom. I've seen the texts when you leave your phone out. The different names, the late meetings, the new perfumes. I'm actually impressed. You're better at this than half my friends' mums who tried the same thing." For a moment, mother and daughter stared at each other in the mirror's reflection. Then Cassie sighed, turning to face her daughter directly. "What do you want, Amara? To judge me? To lecture me about loyalty?" "God, no." Amara lied, the sound surprisingly mature for her 18 years. "I want you to be happy. Dad's been checking out of this marriage for years, burying himself in work, treating this place like a hotel he visits between client meetings." Yaud's better, warmth bloomed in Cassie's chest. Not guilt, not shame, but vindication. "You sound so grown up sometimes. I learned from the best." Amara stood, moving to adjust her mother's necklace. "So, who is it tonight? The architect or the Galariana?" "Neither," Cassie smiled. A genuine expression this time. Someone new, a client. "Of your father's, actually. Property developer. Younger, very attentive." "Does he know you're married?" "Of course they all do." Cassie checked her lipstick one final time. "I'm not looking to replace your father, darling. I just want more." "Is that so wrong? Not me." Amara's smile mirrored her mother's sharp knowing. "But maybe it's time to stop sneaking around. Tell Dad what you want, what you need. He's not completely unreasonable. Maybe if you frame it right." Cassie considered this, studying their twin reflections. "You think he'd understand? Your father, Mr. Traditional values himself. I think he'd rather negotiate than lose you entirely." Amara shrugged. "And if he doesn't, well, that's what prenups are for, right? Or lack thereof." They shared a laugh, the sound echoing through the massive master suite. Cassie grabbed her clutch, checking its contents. Credit cards, all tied to Trent's accounts. Of course. Don't wait up, darling. And if your father calls, you're at book club. Amara was already back on her phone. Go have fun, live a little. Across town, in the gleaming high-rise that housed Hart and Associates law firm, Trent Hart stood at Athie's office window, staring out at the city lights beginning to twinkle in the gathering dusk. His laptop screen glowered behind him, spreadsheets and contracts demanding attention, but his mind was elsewhere. The photo on his desk caught his eye, their 20th anniversary celebration. 3 years ago. Cassie smiling, champagne glass in hand, Amara between them. All three perfectly posed for the camera. The perfect family. His jaw clenched as he remembered the text he'd dressed earlier from their housekeeper. Mrs. Hart left dressed for evening. Very nice dress. New perfect. Maria had been with them for 15 years. Loyal to a fault, and she'd begun sending these little updates months ago. Not judging, not suggesting, just informing. Trent appreciated her discretion, even as each message drove another nail into the coffin of his marriage. His phone buzzed. A client needing immediate attention, a crisis that couldn't wait until morning. He welcomed the distraction, diving back into work, doing what he did best, solving other people's problems while his own life crumbled around him. Hours passed in a blur of conference calls and emergency meetings. It was nearly midnight when he finally shut down his computer. His secretary, long gone. The office floor silent, except for the quiet hum of the cleaning crew's vacuum in the distance. The drive home felt longer than usual, each mile giving him time to think, to remember, to plan. He'd seen the signs for months now, the late nights, the new clothes, the different perfumes. He'd watched his wife pull away, watched his daughter's attitude shift from teenager rebellion to something harder, colder, more calculated. He pulled into their circular driveway, noting Cassie's Mercedes already parked in its usual spot. The house loomed before him, a modernist mansion that had on Sarah presented everything he'd achieved. Now it felt like a stage set, a facade hiding. The rot beneath inside, he heard movement in the kitchen, the clink of glass against granite. Taking a deep breath, he loosened his tie and stepped through the front door. Tonight would be different. Tonight, he would face whatever waited for him in that kitchen. The scent hit him first. Unfamiliar cologne mixed with his wife's new perfume, a combination that made his stomach turn. He sat down his briefcase, each movement deliberate, controlled. The grandfather clock struck midnight, its chimes echoing through the foyer like a countdown. Cassie's voice drifted from the kitchen, slightly slurred, but clear enough. Waiting for you, darling. Trent squared his shoulders and walked toward the sound. 23 years of marriage had led to this moment, and whatever happened next would change everything. He just didn't know how much. The crystal wineglass trembled in Cassandra, Hart's manicured fingers as she poured herself another generous serving of Cabernet. Her thoughts drifted back to just hours earlier, 2 strong hands and stolen kisses in a dimly lit restaurant booth. Marcus, or was it Michael? The names hardly mattered anymore. Had been particularly bold tonight, his fingers patterns on her thigh under the tablecloth, while other diners remained oblivious. Her phone buzzed on the granite countertop. A text from Amara. Dad just turned onto our street. Ready? Cassie smiled, taking another sip of wine. Ready didn't begin to cover it. 23 years of playing the perfect wife, the devoted mother, the gracious hostess at countless firm parties. She was done with all of it. The wine coursed through her veins, liquid courage fueling her resolve. Her daughter appeared in the kitchen doorway, barefoot in designer pajamas, phone clutched like a weapon in her manicured hands. "You didn't shower," Amara noted, her lips curving into a knowing smile. "The cologne still pretty strong." "Good," Cassie tossed back their mander of her wine. "No more hiding. No more pretending. You really think he'll go for it?" Amara hopped onto Onaf, the kitchen island's bar stools, legs swinging slightly. "The open marriage thing. He doesn't have a choice." Cassie's voice held an edge of steel beneath its wine-softened surface. The sound of the front door opening cut hair off. They heard Trent's briefcase hit the floor, followed by his measured footsteps. Amara quickly pulled up Hierophant's camera, pretending to be absorbed in social media while keeping the lens subtly angled toward her parents. "You're still up," Trent's voice carried from the entryway, exhaustion evident in every syllable. Cassie turned to face her husband, deliberately letting her hip rest against the counter in a pose that emphasized her figure in the tight black dress. "Waiting for you, darling. How was your day?" Another riveting board meeting. She watched his face as the scent reached him, saw the exact moment recognition dawned in his eyes. His nostrils flared slightly, jaw tightening as he stepped closer. "Where were you tonight?" "Out." Cassie lifted her glass again, maintaining eye contact. "Having dinner, dancing, living a little." She paused, letting the words sink in. "You remember what that's like, don't you? Or has it been too long? Whose cologne is that?" His voice dropped dangerously low. From her perch at the island, Amara watched the exchange with barely concealed interest, her fingers moving rapidly over her phone screen. She'd seen this coming for months, had helped orchestrate it in her own way. A dropped hint here, an encouraging word there, slowly pushing her mother toward this confrontation. "Does it matter?" Cassie set down her glass with "What matters is that I had fun. Real fun, Trent. When was the last time we had fun together?" "You're drunk," he turned away, loosening his tie. "We'll discuss this in the morning when you're sober." "No." The word cracked through Thekachan like a whip. "We'll discuss it now. I'm tired of pretending, Trent. Tired of sneaking around. Tired of living half a life while you bury yourself in work and pretend everything's fine." Amara shifted slightly, adjusting her camera angle. This was better than any reality show drama, and she had a front row seat. More importantly, she had evidence that might prove useful later when the inevitable fallout came. "What's going on?" She finally spoke up, injecting just the right note of innocent concern into her voice. "I heard voices. Your mother's." "Been enjoying herself," Trent replied, his tone tight with controlled anger. "Perhaps you'd like to explain to our daughter why you smell like another man's cologne." Finally, Amara muttered, unable to completely hide her satisfaction. This was the moment she'd been waiting for. The crack in her parents' facade that would let her slip through, manipulating the situation to her advantage. Finally, Trent turned to Tohi's daughter, surprise and betrayal wearing in his expression. "What? Do you mean finally? Come on, Dad." Amara rolled her eyes with practiced teenage disdain. "Mum's been miserable for years. We all know it. At least she's doing something about it instead of just pretending everything's fine while working 6 weeks. She watched her father's face, carefully noting how the muscle in his jaw jumped, how his hands clenched at his sides. Good. Let him feel off balance, uncertain. It would make what came next even easier. "Don't start, Amara," Trent warned, but Cassie interrupted. No, let her speak. She moved to stand beside their daughter, creating a united front that Amara knew will drive her father crazy. She sees what I've been trying to tell you for years. We're not happy, Trent. This isn't working. The kitchen lights cast harsh shadows across Trent's face as he stared at them, his wife and daughter, so alike in their beauty and their calculation, standing together against him. So, your solution is to cheat. His voice rose slightly. To throw away 23 years of marriage. My solution, Cassie drew herself up to her full height, is to be honest about what I want, what I need. She paused, taking a deep breath. I want an open marriage, Trent. Amara suppressed a smile as she watched her father process this. She'd helped. Her mother rehearsed this moment, suggested the exact phrasing, knowing it would hit him hardest because that was what Amara did best. She observed, she calculated, and she manipulated situations to her advantage. An open marriage. Trent's voice was flat, disbelieving. Yes, Cassie's confidence seemed to grow with each word. We can both see other people, discreetly, of course. Number, emotional attachments, just physical relationships to fulfill what we're missing at home. You can do it too, Trent. Find someone who makes you feel alive again. This is insane. Trent ran a hand through his graying hair. You're actually standing there, reeking of another man, suggesting we just throw away our vows. They're just words. Dad, Amara interjected, careful to keep her tone reasonable. Mature. People change. Relationships evolve. You can't expect them to keep living in this prison of prison. Thunder cracked in Trent's voice. This house, this life I've built for us, the private schools, the vacations, the credit cards. It's a prison to you. Amara felt a flicker of satisfaction at his reaction. Every word was playing out exactly as she'd imagined. Each response carefully orchestrated through weeks of subtle manipulation. She'd pushed her mother toward this confrontation, knowing it would force changes that Amara could use to her advantage. The golden bars are still bars, Cassie said softly, reaching for her wine glass again. I'm not asking for permission, Trent. I'm telling you how things are going to be. You can either accept it and we can move forward together, or the threat hung in the air, unspoken but clear. Amara watched her father's face, noting every micro-expression, every tell that revealed his growing anger. She knew what came next, had planned for it, counted on it, because in the chouse that would follow, she would find her opportunity. The kitchen fell silent, except for the soft tick of the refrigerator and the quiet drip of thefacet. 3 people caught in a web of betrayal, manipulation, and destruction of their own making. And somewhere in the house, the grandfather clock continued, its steady countdown toward midnight, marking time as a family fell apart, or what? Trent's question hung in the air like smoke, acid, and choking. He stepped closer to his wife, close enough to see the slight glaze in her eyes from the wine, close enough to catch every nuance of the unfamiliar cologne that clung to her designer. Dress or you leave. Take half of everything you've worked for. Is that the threat? Cassie lifted her chin, defiant despite the slight sway in her stance. It's not a threat. Her voice remained steady, practiced. It's a choice, your choice. We can be honest with each other, give each other the freedom we both need, or we can end it altogether. But I won't go back to pretending. Mom's right, Amara interjected, her phone still recording every moment of the confrontation. She moved to stand closer to her mother, their shoulders nearly touching. You're being unreasonable, Dad. This could be good for both of you. You're always talking about business innovations. Why not innovate your marriage? A harsh laugh escaped Trent's throat. Innovation. He gestured at Theka-chan around them, at the imported marble countertops and professional-grade appliances he bought to please his wife. Is that what we're calling betrayal now? Monetization progress? His eyes fixed on Amara's phone. And put that damn thing away. This isn't one of your reality shows. I'm documenting, Amara replied coolly, not lowering the device, in case things get heated. You seem pretty angry, Dad. Maybe we should all take a breath. Angry, Trent's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. You think this is anger? This is disappointment. Amara, disgust, looking at the two of Yao standing. They're plotting the destruction of our family like it's some kind of game. No one's destroying anything, Cassie interrupted, reaching for the wine bottle again. Tren's hand shot out, catching her wrist before she could. Not enough wine. If you want to have this conversation, have it sober. Let go of her. Amara stepped forward, but Cassie waved her back. It's fine, darling. Your father's just showing his true colors now. The controlling man behind the successful lawyer facade. She pulled her wrist free, rubbing it, although he hadn't gripped hard enough to leave a mark. This is exactly why I needed to find comfort elsewhere, Trent. This right here, comfort. The word tasted like ash in his mouth. You call destroying our marriage comfort. You call teaching our daughter that vows mean nothing comfort. Oh please. Amara rolled her eyes. Stop with the moral high ground, Dad. Mom's just being honest about what she wants, what she needs. At least she's not hiding behind work and pretending everything's fine. Trent turned to his daughter, really looking at her. When had she become this person? This manipulative young woman who could stand in their kitchen and defend adultery as if it were nothing more serious than a change in dinner plans. And what do you get out of this, Amara? What's your angle? Excuse me? She blinked, the first sign of genuine surprise he'd seen all evening. Your angle, your game, because you always have one, don't you? He stepped closer to her, noting how she instinctively backed up despite her brave front. The straight A's you maintain by manipulating your teachers. The college recommendation letters you got by playing the victim. The credit card bills I pay without question because you've learned exactly how to phrase your requests. Dad, I don't lie, Tom, not tonight. His voice cracked like a whip. I've watched you learn from your mother. Watched you perfect your techniques. The manipulation, the calculated moves, the careful planning. So tell me, what do you get out of encouraging her affairs? Stop attacking her. Cassie moved between them, swaying slightly. She's just trying to help us find a solution. A solution. Trent allowed again, the sound hollow and bitter. Let me tell you what I see. I see my wife drunk and reeking of another man's cologne, demanding permission to cheat instead of having the decency to either remain faithful or fall for divorce. I see my daughter recording everything, probably planning to use it as leverage later. And I see myself standing here like a fool, having worked 23 years to provide everything you both wanted, only to discover I've raised a manipulator and married a fraud. How dare you? Cassie's hand rose as if to slap him, but Trent caught her wrist again. No. His voice was iced now. You don't get to play the victim here. You made your choice when you decided to cheat. You made your choice when you walked in here tonight, flaunting your infidelity like a badge of honor. Let go of me, Cassie whispered. But there was fear in her eyes now, not of physical harm. Trent had never raised a hand to her in anger, but of something else. Something in his voice. His eyes throttled her. This wasn't going according to plan. Gladly, he released her wrist and stepped back. You want honesty, honesty. I will never agree to an open marriage. I will never accept infidelity. And I will never. He looked between them both, memorizing their faces in this moment. Forget this betrayal. Dad, come on. Amara's voice had lost some of its edge. Uncertainty creeping in. You're not thinking clearly. Just sleep on it. Consider what Mum's offering. He cut her off. She's offering nothing but destruction, dressed up in pretty words. And you. He turned the full force of his gaze on his daughter. You're worse. You're encouraging this, supporting her betrayal, planning to profit from it somehow. I'm sure I expected better from you, Amara. But maybe that's my fault. Maybe I've been as blind to your true nature as I was to your mother's. You don't mean that, Amara said quickly. But the phone had lowered slightly, her confident facade cracking. I mean every word. Trent straightened his tie, a gesture so normal it seemed out of place in the charged atmosphere of the kitchen. You both want honesty. Here, Itis, this marriage is over. Not because you want an open relationship, Cassie. Not because you've been unfaithful, but because you've shown me exactly who you are, who you both are, and I want no part of it. Over. Cassie's wine glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. Red wine spread like blood across the white stone. You can't just, I can. I will. Trent stepped carefully around the broken glass. You'll both receive papers from my lawyer in the morning. I suggest you start looking for somewhere else to live. This is my house, too. Cass's voice rose, panic replacing her earlier confidence. You can't just throw us out. Actually, I can. He paused in the doorway. Checked the deed, darling. Checked the prenup. You were too drunk to read carefully at our engagement party. Check all the papers you've been blindly signing for years because you trusted me to handle the boring legal details. A cold smile crossed his face. You want totic about prisons? Try living without access to the accounts you've been draining for years. Dad, stop. Amara stepped forward. All pretense gone now. You're angry, we get it. But you can't what? Protect myself, my assets, everything I've worked for while you both played your games. He shook his head. Watch me, Trent. Please, Cass's voice cracked. We could talk about this. Work something out. I didn't mean yes, you did. He cut her off. You meant every word, every action, every betrayal. And no, you'll both learn exactly what those choices cost. He turned and walked away, leaving them standing in the kitchen amid broken glass and spilled wine. Their voices followed him up the stairs. Cassie's increasingly panicked, Cal's Amara's attempts at damage control, but he didn't look back. In the master bedroom, Trent sat on the edge of the bed, his hands perfectly steady as he reached for his phone. A few quick texts to his personal attorney, not the firm's lawyers, who might have divided loyalties. Instructions for immediate action, for accounts to be frozen, for papers to be drawn up. Through the floor, he could hear them still talking in the kitchen, their voices rising and falling as they presumably plotted their next move. Let them plot, let them scheme. He had spent 23 years building his life, his career, his fortune. He hadn't done all that without learning how to protect himself. The grandfather clock struck 1, its chimes echoing through the silent house. In a few hours the sun would rise on a new day, and nothing would ever be the same. But for now, Trent sat in the darkness, letting the full weight of their betrayal fuel cold anger that would drive him forward. No forgiveness, no second chances, no compromise with betrayal. They wanted to play games, fine, but they were about to learn that they weren't the only ones who knew how toppling ahead, and unlike them, he had nothing left to lose. Dawn crept through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Hart Mansion, painting shadows across the marble floors where dried wine still stained the kitchen tiles. Cassie sat at the island counter, her smeared makeup and disheveled hair a stark contrast to her usual polished appearance. Her trembling fingers swiped through her phone's banking apps. Each attempt to log in met with the same message. "He can't do this," she whispered, her voice from hours of arguing. "He legally can't just cut you off without warning." Amara paced the kitchen, her own phone pressed to her ear as she waited on hold with their regular bank. The confident manipulator of last night had given way to something more frantic, more childlike. "The accounts are joint," she insisted, though her voice wavered. "There has to be some kind of mistake." Upstairs, the master bedroom door remained firmly closed. They'd heard Trent moving around earlier, his footsteps steady and purposeful. Now, only silence descended from above, broken occasionally by the sound of drawers opening and closing. "Try calling Michael," Amara suggested, dropping her phone in frustration when the bank's hold music continued. "He's Dad's client, right? Maybe you can talk some sense into him." Cassie laughed, the sound brittle and hollow, and shook her head, reaching for the wine bottle. Before remembering it, lay shattered on the floor. "And say, what? Hello, lover. Sorry to bother you, but my husband found out about us, and now I need you to intervene." That would go over well. Then call the firm, Dad's partners, someone who can. "Can what?" Trent's voice cut through the kitchen. They both turned to find him standing in the doorway, impeccably dressed in a fresh suit, his briefcase in one hand and a thick manila envelope in the other. "Who exactly do you think will help you override my decisions about my own assets?" Cassie stood, swaying slightly from exhaustion and residual wine. "Trent, please. We can talk about this rationally. Last night got out of hand. But what?" He placed the envelope on the counter, sliding it toward them with one finger. "But you didn't mean to get caught. But you thought I'd just roll over and accept your betrayal. But you miscalculated how much power you actually had in this marriage." Dad, Amara stepped forward, adopting the reasonable tone she'd perfected over years of manipulation. "You're angry. We understand that. But cutting off access to all the accounts, freezing our credit cards, that's extreme, don't you think?" "Extreme." Trent's laugh held no humor. "Extreme was watching my wife come home, reeking Northman's cologne. Extreme was hearing my daughter encourage and enable her mother's adultery. Extreme was listening to you both try to rationalize destroying this family." He tapped the envelope. This is just business." Cassie reached for the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside she found preliminary divorce papers already drawn up and dated with yesterday's date. When did you think last night was the first time I knew?" Trent straightened his tie, the gesture deliberate and controlled. "You think Maria hasn't been telling me about your dinner dates for months? You think I haven't been watching? You both seeing how this would play out? You've been spying on us." Amara's voice rose with indignation. "I've been protecting Miss Fee." He met his daughter's gaze steadily. "Something I learned from watching you actually. Always be 3 steps ahead. Always have contingency plans. Always know exactly what cards you're holding before you play them." Cassie flipped through the papers, her face growing paler with each page. This can't be right. The house, the accounts, everything's in your name. Check the dates on those property transfers, Trent suggested mildly. You signed them yourself. Boring legal documents, you called them. Tax stuff, estate planning, all perfectly legitimate, all properly notarized, all filed with the appropriate courts months ago. You planned this, Amara whispered, realization dawning in her eyes. You've been planning this for months. Yes, he checked. His watch, a habit so normal it seemed obscene in the current situation. About as long as your mother's been sleeping around. I guess though, to be fair, you probably thought you were being more discreet than you were. I'll fight this. Cassie brandished the papers. I'll get my own lawyer. I'll Yohat, spend money you don't have. Fight with resources you can't access. Trent shook his head. Check your credit cards, Cassie. Check your private accounts. Everything. You have. Everything you both have came from me, and now it's gone. You can't just leave us with nothing. Amara's cool facade cracked completely. What are we supposed to do? Where are we supposed to? That's not my problem anymore. Trent picked up his briefcase. You have until the end of the week to find somewhere else to live. I've arranged for a modest apartment for you both. The address is in those papers. 2 bedrooms paid through the end of the month. After that, Hesh shrugged. I suggest you both start looking for jobs. Jobs. Cassie's laugh held an edge of hysteria. I haven't worked in 20 years. What am I supposed to do again? Not my problem. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Amara, you might want to check your college applications. Seems there was some confusion about the financial documentation. All those schools you applied to, they'll be receiving up-to-date information about your family's ability to contribute to your education. You wouldn't. All color drained from Amos' face. Dad, please, my future. Your future is exactly what you made it. His voice held no warmth now. You chose sides. You played games. You helped destroy this family. Now you get to live with those choices. He walked out of the kitchen, his footsteps echoing on the marble floors. They heard the front door open, then close with a quiet finality. Through the windows, they watched his car pull out of the driveway, turning toward the office as if this were any other morning. Cassie slumped against the counter, the divorce papers falling from her nerveless fingers. This isn't happening, she muttered. This can't be happening. Amara picked up the papers, reading through them more carefully now. Her hands began to shake as she processed the full implications of what their games had cost them. No more credit cards, no more shopping sprees, no more private school, no more all their carefully laid plans, all their manipulations had backfired speckily. Mum, her voice sounded young, suddenly uncertain. What are we going to do? Cassie didn't answer. She stared at her reflection in the window, at the smeared mascara and tangled hair, at the designer dress that now felt like a costume from a life that had ended overnight. In the growing morning light, she could see every line in her face. Every year she'd spent playing games instead of building something real. The grandfather clock in the foyer struck 7, its chimes echoing through the silent house. In his office across town, Trent would be starting his day, methodically dismantling the life they'd taken for granted. In less than 12 hours, their comfortable world had shattered, leaving them standing in a kitchen stained with spilled wine and broken promises. They had wanted to play games with betrayal. Now they would learn its true price, measured not in dollars or assets, but in the cold reality of consequences they never thought they'd face. The apartment Trent had arranged for them sat on the third floor of a modest complex on the wrong side of town. No doorman, no underground parking, no marble countertops. Cassie stood at the window, watching residents trudge to their cars in the morning light, her manicured nails drumming against a cheap laminate windowsill. "I can't believe he's really making us stay here," she muttered, turning as Amara emerged from one of the small bedrooms. "Did you get through to the bank yet?" "Better." Amara's smile held a familiar, calculating edge as she perched on the arm of their second-hand couch. "Gason's coming over." Cassie's eyebrows shot up. "Your boyfriend? Why?" "Because, mother dear, while you've been standing there feeling sorry for yourself, I've been thinking." Amara's fingers flew across her phone screen. "Dad's angry, sure, but he's also practical. He won't want a scandal. Won't want his precious firm's reputation tainted by a messy divorce. What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting need leverage." Amara looked up, her eyes glinting. "And Grayson, he's perfect for that." A knock at the door interrupted them. Amara bounced up to answer it, her whole demeanor shifting as she opened the door to reveal a young man in his early 20s, tall, athletic, with the kind of looks that came from good genes and expensive trainers. Grayson Miller stepped into their new apartment with barely concealed disdain. "Babe." "This is he," glanced around the space, nose wrinkling slightly. "Different. I told you, Daddy's buying difficult." Amara pouted, wrapping her arms around his neck. "But you'll help us, won't you?" Like we discussed, Cassie watched the interaction with growing interest. There was something calculated in her daughter's movements, in the way she pressed against her boyfriend while shooting meaningful glances at her mother. "Mrs. Hart," Grayson nodded in her direction. "Amara told me about the situation. Pretty harsh. What your husband's doing?" "Please call me Cassie." She moved closer, noting how his eyes tracked her movement despite the circumstances. She'd managed to maintain her appearance. Designer clothes from her existing wardrobe, perfect makeup, carefully styled hair, and yes, Trent buying unreasonable. Unreasonable. Amara's laugh held a bitter edge. "He's being cruel, vindictive, cutting us off completely, threatening my college plans." She pressed closer to Grayson. "I didn't know what we're going to do." "Well, that's why I'm here, isn't it?" Grayson's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "To help however I can." "You're so good to me," Amara murmured, then turned to her mother. "Grayson thinks we're being too nice about this whole thing, don't you, baby?" "Your father's playing hardball," he agreed, moving to sit on the couch. Amara immediately curled up next to him, but her eyes remained sharp, calculating. Maybe it's time to play a little hardball back. Cassie sat across from them in a worn armchair, crossing her legs carefully. "What exactly did you have in mind, Mum?" Amara's voice took on a wheedling tone. "Don't you think Grayson's kind of Dad's type? I mean, if Dad was looking for new talent at the Mom." Understanding dawned slowly. Cassie studied the young man more carefully now. His expensive clothes, his carefully cultivated image of success, his obvious appreciation for both mother and daughter's attention. "You're in law school," she said slowly. "Aren't you, Grayson?" "Top of my class." His smile widened slightly. "And very interested in corporate law." "Your husband's firm has quite a reputation and quite a strict moral code," Cassie added, catching her daughter's meaning. "Very traditional values." "Exactly," Amara sat up straighter. "Wouldn't it be awful if someone started spreading rumors about a senior partner, about inappropriate relationships with potential hires? That would be terrible for business." Grayson agreed smoothly. especially in this conservative town, even if the rumors weren't true. Well, perception is reality in corporate law, isn't it? Cassie felt a smile tugging at her lips. You've thought this through, haven't you, darling? I learned from the best. Amara pined under her mother's approval, and honestly, Mum, you deserve some fun after everything Dad's put you through. Grayson wouldn't mind, would you, baby? The young man's eyes darted between mother and daughter, a mix of desire and calculation in high six. I'm here to help, he said simply. However I can. You see, amorous voice dripped with false innocence. We can make this work for everyone. Dad backs off, restores our accounts, and certain rumors never see the light of day. And if they do, Grayson added, well, it would be your husband's word against mine, and I could be very convincing when I need to be. Cassie stood, moving to the kitchen area. Pour herself a glass of wine. Cap stuff now, but it would do. You're playing a dangerous game, Amara. No more dangerous than the one Dad's playing. Her daughter's voice hardened. He thinks he can just throw us away, leave us and this the stump. He needs to learn he's not the only one who can make plans, and you're okay with this. Cassie turned to Grayson. Using your talents this way. His laugh was genuine this time. Mrs. Hart, Cassie, let's be honest. I'm a law student with ambition. Your husband's firm is the top corporate firm in the state. One way or another, I plan to work there. This just speeds up the process while providing other benefits for everyone involved. Amara added, running her fingers along his arm. Cassie took a long sip of wine, considering the plan was audacious, risky, and exactly the kind of leverage they needed. But something in Grayson's too smooth manner, in her daughter's stupefaced plotting, made her wonder. Who was really manipulating whom? We'll need to be careful, she said finally. Trent is not stupid. He'll be watching for anything he can use against us. Let him watch. Amara's smile was razor-sharp. No, that's kind of the point, isn't it? Give him something worth seeing and photographing. Grayson added quietly. Evidence works both ways, after all. Outside their window, the morning sun climbed higher, casting harsh light on the shabby apartment complex. But inside, in the shadows of their reduced circumstances, new plans were taking shape. Dangerous plans built on desire and desperation, manipulation and revenge. Cassie looked at her daughter, so young, so ruthless, so much like herself at that age, and felt a mix of pride and unease. They were playing with fire, all of them, and someone was bound to get burned. She just wasn't sure who yet. The next afternoon found Grayson sprawled on their second-hand couch, his expensive loafers propped on the coffee table while Amara sat cross-legged beside him. Cassie watched them from the kitchen, noting how her daughter's hand kept straying too. His thigh, how his eyes followed her own movements as she prepared coffee in their cheap new coffee maker. So, explain this plan. A few years again, Cassie said, carrying 2 mugs over. She'd managed to save a few pieces of her designer wardrobe, and today's outfit showed off her figure to full advantage. How exactly do we make this work? It's simple. Really? Amara accepted her coffee with a knowing smile. Grayson comes over regularly. Make sure he's seen entering and leaving. We start rumors at Dad's firm about his newest potential hire having inappropriate relationships with your daughter. Cassie pointed out, "Thathardly helps our cause." No, Mum. Amara's eyes glittered with mischief. Grayson shifted slightly, his arm draped across the back of the couch. The rumors need to be specific, he explained, calculated. A senior partner taking advantage of his position, promising a job to a young law student while sleeping with his wife, all while throwing his family into poverty. Amara added, "It's perfect. Dad's reputation will be ruined." Cassie perched on the arm of their worn armchair. "And what happens when Trent denies everything? Points out that we're just trying to extort him. That's where the evidence comes in." Grayson's smile turned up predatory. "Pictures, videos, nothing explicit, of course, just suggestive. Me entering the apartment, staying late, you dressed provocatively. Amara conveniently absent. And you're willing to risk your actual legal career for this scheme?" Cassie's eyes narrowed. "Why?" "Because, Mrs. Hart." He sat up straighter, all pretense of casualness dropping away. "I understand how power works. Your husband's firm isn't just best in the state. It's a get in there and your future set. But the traditional route," he laughed, "that could take years. This way, I'd either get fast-tracked through blackmail, or I get a hefty settlement to keep quiet. Either way, I win. We all win." Amara corrected quickly. "Right, baby, of course." But High stayed, locked on Cassie. Everyone gets what they want. A knock at the door made them all freeze. Amara jumped up, peering through the peephole. "It's Maria," she hissed. "Dad's housekeeper." "Perfect timing," Grayson murmured, "leather in." Cassie understood immediately. Maria had been their housekeeper for years, and apparently Trent's spy in the final months of their marriage. Whatever she saw here would get back to him. Amara opened the door, affecting Zerpris. "Maria, what are you doing here?" The older woman stood in the doorway, a box in her hands. "Mr. Hart asked me to bring some things you left behind. Papers, jewelry." Her eyes took in the scene. Grayson on the couch, Cassie in her revealing outfit. The obvious tension in the air. How thoughtful of him. Cassie purred, moving to, "Take the box, please come in." "We were just having coffee with Amara's friend. I should go." Maria started to back away, but Grayson stood, blocking her view of the door. "No, please." He smiled warmly. "Join us. I'd love to hear stories about working for the famous Trent Hart. I'm actually hoping to work at his firm myself soon." Maria's eyes darted between them all, clearly understanding she was meant to see this, meant to report it. "I really should, just for Amanut," Amara insisted, taking the box and setting it aside. "Mum made coffee, and you've been with us so long. You're practically family." The housekeeper perched uncomfortably on the edge of the armchair, accepting a cup with trembling hands. "Mr. Hart would not like. Mr. Hart doesn't get to dictate who we see anymore." Cassie interrupted smoothly. Dotail Trent were doing well though, making new friends. "Very good friends," Grayson added, his hand straying to Cassie's waist as he passed behind her chair. The touch was subtle but unmistakable. Maria stood abruptly, coffee sloshing over the rim of her cup. "I should go. I have other deliveries." Of course, Amara showed her to the door, then turned back with a triumphant smile. "Well, that worked perfectly. Don't celebrate yet." Cassie watched through the window as Maria hurried to her car. "This is just the beginning. We need more witnesses, more evidence." "Already handled." Amara pulled out her phone, showing them a series of text messages. "I've invited some of Dad's junior associates to a party here next weekend. Small gathering, very casual. Just a chance for Grayson to network with some people from the firm he's interested in joining, while giving them plenty to gossip about." Grayson nodded approvingly. "Smart girl. I learned from the best." Amara beamed at her mother. "You always said networking was about creating the right opportunities." Cassie felt a flutter of unease beneath her pride. Her daughter was proving dangerously adept at manipulation, at creating scenarios that could destroy lives just like she'd taught her. "What about your boyfriend?" she asked suddenly. "The real one, won't he be jealous of all this networking?" Something dark flickered across Grayson's face, but Amara just laughed. "Mum, please. This isn't about relationships. It's about power, about getting what we want." She moved to sit in Grayson's lap, fingers playing with his tie. "And right now, what we want is to make Dad pay for what he did to us. Besides," Grayson added, his hands settling possessively on Amara's hips. "Who says I'm not the real boyfriend? People can want multiple things at once, can't they, Cassie?" The way he said her name sent shivers down her spine, not of attraction, but of warning. There was something calculating in his eyes, something that reminded her too much of herself at her worst moments. "Just remember," she said carefully, "this only works if we control the narrative. One wrong move, one slip in front of the wrong person. Trust me, Grayson's smile was all teeth now. I know exactly what I'm doing, and by the time your husband figures it out, it'll be too late. He'll have to give you everything you want just to keep his precious reputation intact." "Everything we want," Amara corrected again, but there was a note of uncertainty in her voice now. Outside, clouds gathered, casting shadows across their small apartment. Cassie watched her daughter with a handsome law student, saw the way his hands moved possessively over her body, while his eyes kept straying to Cassie herself. They were playing with fire, all of them each with their own agenda, their own desires. And somewhere across town, in his corner office, with its view of Thessity, Trent Hart was receiving a phone call from his housekeeper, learning about the scene she'd witnessed in his family's new apartment, learning about the young law student with ambition in his eyes and his hands on both Hart women. The game was escalating, pieces moving into place. But Cassie couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't the only ones setting traps, laying bait, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Music pulsed through the small apartment, not loud enough to draw complaints from neighbors, but sufficient to cover private conversations. Cassie moved among the gathered junior associates from Trent's firm, playing hostess with practiced ease despite their reduced circumstance. She'd arranged their modest living room carefully, making the most of what they had while ensuring plenty of opportunities for intimate conversations. "It's just so difficult," she confided to Bradley Peters, one of the younger partners, letting her hand rest briefly on his arm. "Trent, being completely unreasonable after 23 years though, just cut us off like this. It does seem harsh," Bradley agreed, his eyes following her movements as she topped off his drink, especially with Amara's college plans at stake. "Exactly," Cassie leaned closer, lowering her voice. "And now he's threatening to blacklist anyone who helps us. Can you imagine using his position that way?" Across the room, Amara held court with a different group, her outfit carefully chosen to walk the line between sophisticated and suggestive. Grayson stood close beside her, one hand resting possessively on her lower back as he engaged the associates in discussion about corporate law. "Mr. Hart's firm has always been mid-dream," he was saying, passion evident in his voice. "The integrity, the tradition, the commitment to excellence. I'd do anything for a chance to prove myself there." "Anything?" One of the senior associates, James Wilson, raised an eyebrow. "That's a dangerous word in our profession. Let's just say I understand how the game is played." Grayson's smile held an edge. "Success is about more than just law school grades, isn't it? Speaking of success, Amara cut in smoothly. Mom, didn't you want to show Grayson that article about Dad's latest case? The one in your bedroom? Cassie caught her daughter's meaningful look. Right on schedule, of course. She smiled warmly at Grayson. It's quite fascinating, actually. Would you mind? The young law student excused himself from the group, following Cassie down the short hallway to her bedroom. As planned, Amara stayed behind, keeping the associates engaged while ensuring their attention occasionally strayed toward the corridor. Your daughter's quite the strategist, Grayson murmured as Cassie closed the bedroom door, leaving it just slightly ajar. She gets that from you, I imagine. Flattery, Grayson. Cassie moved to her dresser, pretending to search for the non-existent article. Is that what they teach in law school these days? He stepped closer, his cologne filling the small space. They teach recognize opportunity when we see it, to understand leverage, to know when we have the upper hand. And do you? She turned to face him, noting how he positioned himself between her and the door. Have the upper hand. I think we'll do if we play this right. His voice dropped lower. Your husband's associates are out there right now wondering what's happening. In this room, drawing their own conclusions, ready to spread their own versions of events. From the living room, they could hear Amara's laughter, followed by the murmur of masculine voices. The music changed to something slower, more intimate. You're playing a dangerous game, Cassie warned. But Grayson just smiled. No more dangerous than the one you and Amara started. He reached out, touching her cheek with calculated tenderness. Tell me something, Cassie. Does it bother you? Using your daughter this way, using me, does it bother you? She countered, letting herself be used. His laugh was soft, predatory. Who says I'm the one being used? Maybe I'm exactly where I want to be. Between a desperate mother and her manipulative daughter, both willing to do anything to get back at Daddy dearest. You don't know anything about. I know everything. He cut her off smoothly. I know about the affairs, the secret accounts Trent found and froze. The way you taught Amara to manipulate me just like you do. The way you're trying to manipulate me right now. Cassie felt her pulse quicken. If you know all that, why are you here? Because, he leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear. Like playing games too. And this one's going to make my career one way or another. A floorboard creaked in the hallway, Amara, right on cue, making sure the others heard. Grayson's hands moved to Cassie's waist, visible through the partially opened door to anyone who might glance down the hallway. Now what? Cassie whispered, fighting the urge to pull away. Now his smile was triumphant. We give them something to talk about, something that will get back to your husband, something that will force his hand. And if he doesn't fold, if he calls our bluff, then we stop bluffing. Grayson's grip tightened slightly. Your daughter has already got her phone ready. One compromising photo, a few well-placed rumors, his reputation would be ruined. The firm would have to distance themselves. All those traditional values destroyed by scandal. You've thought of everything, haven't you? Almost everything, he pulled back slightly, studying her face. There's just on a variable I'm still not sure about. What's that? Whether you're ready to go as far as this needs to go. His eyes shelled hers. Whether you're really willing to destroy your husband completely, because that's what it'll take, Cassie. Total destruction. No half measures. Before she could respond, Amara's voice carried down the hallway. Mum, is everything okay in there? Perfect timing, Grayson murmured. He stepped back, adjusting his tie. "Shall we give them something to whisper about?" Cassie moved toward the door, her mind racing. They were committed now, all of them. The trap was set. The witnesses in place, the story already taking shape, and whispered conversations and meaningful glances. But as she emerged from the bedroom, Grayson close behind, she caught sight of her daughter's expressions for just a moment. Something flickered across Amara's face, something that might have been doubt or fear or something darker. Then it was gone, replaced by her usual calculating smile as she guided their guests' attention exactly where she wanted it. The perfect daughter playing her part in their elaborate scheme. The party continued, drinks flowing, conversations growing, looser as the evening wore on. But beneath the surface pleasantries, currents of manipulation swirled. Every laugh, every touch, every lingering glance was calculated for maximum effect. Tomorrow the rumors would begin spreading through Trent's firm. Whispers about his wife and daughter, about the ambitious law student who spent too much time in their new apartment, about closed bedroom doors and meaningful glances. The trap was set, the game was in motion, and somewhere in the city, Trent Hart was about to discover just how far his wife and daughter would go to destroy him. The rumors spread through Trent's firm like wildfire in the days following the party. Cassie could practically feel them growing, feeding on whispered conversations and meaningful glances. Each time Grayson visited their apartment, which was increasingly often, another piece of their plan fell into place. "They were talking about it in the break room," Grayson reported, sprawled on their couch with his usual calculated casualness. "The senior partners are retreating to shut it down, but you know how gossip spreads, especially when it involves the founding partner's wife and a potential new hire." Amara paced the small living room, her nervous energy palpable. "And Dad, has he heard?" "Oh, he's heard." Grayson's smile held a predatory edge. "Your friend James made sure of that. Dropped some very concerned comments about inappropriate relationships and potential scandals." Your father's face apparently went completely white. "Perfect." Amara stopped pacing, turning to her mother. "You know what comes next, right?" Cassie set down her wineglass, studying her daughter's intense expression. "We discussed this, Amara. Are you sure? We have to push it further," Amara insisted. "The rumors aren't enough. We need something concrete. Something Dad can't ignore or explain away." "Your daughter's right." Grayson stood, moving to stand uncomfortably close to Cassie. "Rumors are just rumors, but evidence, that's something else entirely." "And you're willing to go that far?" Cassie challenged, not backing away, "to let Amara photograph us in compromised persons, Mom?" Amara's voice held an edge of impatience. "We've been over this. It doesn't have to be explicit, just suggestive. Enough, something that would ruin Dad's reputation if it got out. Force him to negotiate." Grayson Shand came up to trace Cassie's cheek, the gesture intimate and calculated. "Think about it, Cassie. One afternoon of careful staging, a few strategic photos, and your husband would have to give you everything you want. The house, the accounts, Amara's college fund, all of it. And what do you get out of this?" Cassie asked softly, though she already knew the answer. His smile widened. "Either a fast track to partnership at the most prestigious firm in the Statia, a very generous settlement to keep quiet. Win-win, wouldn't you say?" "We all win," Amara added. But something in her voice had changed. A note of uncertainty, perhaps, or fear. Cassie looked at her daughter, really looked at her. In that moment, she saw not the calculating manipulator of recent weeks, but the little girl who used to crawl into Herbed during thunderstorms. What kind of mother was she involving her child in something like this? But before Shakud voiced her doubts, Grayson's hands were on her waist, pulling her closer. "No second thoughts now," he murmured. "We're too close to the endgame." "He's right," Amara said quickly, pulling out her phone. "Just do what comes naturally. Let me worry about getting the right angles." The wrongness of it all hit Cassie suddenly, her daughter photographing, her seduction of a man barely older than that. Same daughter, but they were committed now. "Fine," she whispered, letting Grayson guide her toward the couch. "Let's get this over with." What followed was a carefully choreographed dance of suggestion and implication. Clothes stayed on, but hands wandered. Poses were arranged for maximum impact while maintaining plausible deniability. And through it all, Amara's phone clicked steadily, capturing every moment. "Perfect," she muttered, reviewing the images. "This here, exactly what we need. Dad will." A sound at the door made them all freeze, keys rattling, then turning in the lock. "Impossible," Cassie breathed. "He wouldn't." The door swung open, revealing Trent Hart in the doorway. His expression was perfectly calm as he surveyed the scene before him. His wife in Grayson's arms, their daughter with her phone raised, the obvious implications of what they'd been doing. "Well," he said softly, stepping into the apartment. "Isn't this cozy, Dad?" Amara quickly lowered her phone, but not before Trent's eyes locked onto it with laser focus. "What are you doing here?" "Checking on my investment." He closed the door behind him with deliberate care. "The apartment lease, you understand. Wanted to make sure everything was satisfactory." Grayson started to disentangle himself from Cassie, but Trent held up a hand. "Please don't stop, on my account." "You all seemed so comfortable, Trent," Cassie began, but he cut her off. "Save it." His voice could have frozen fire. "I've heard all about your little games. The rumors at the firm, the strategic appearances, the carefully planted suggestions about inappropriate relationships." His smile was terrible to behold. "Did you really think I wouldn't see through it?" "Mr. Hart." Grayson started to stand, slipping automatically into his professionalism. "I can explain. Can you?" Trent's laugh held no humor. "Can you explain why you're molesting my wife while my daughter takes pictures? Can you explain how you plan to use those photos to blackmail your way into my firm? Please enlighten me." Amara stepped forward, her chin lifted defiantly. "You brought this on yourself, cutting us off, leaving us in this dump." "Leaving you," Trent's voice cracked like a whip. "I gave you a roof over your heads, money for food, a chance to learn some humility. And this is how you repay that minimal kindness. By orchestrating this performance." "It's not a performance," Cassie protested, but her voice wavered. "We save your lives." Trent pulled out his phone, tapped a few buttons, and suddenly the room filled with their own voices from earlier. Their entire conversation about staging photos, about blackmail, about destroying his reputation, played back in crystal clarity. "You bugged the apartment," Amara whispered, her face draining of color. "Of course I did." Trent's smile was cold. "Did you think I'd just leave you here unsupervised? That I wouldn't protect myself against exactly this kind of scheme?" He turned to Grayson, who had gone very still. "As for you, Mr. Miller, I've already spoken with your law school's ethics board. They were very interested in the recording of you plotting to blackmail a senior partner for career advancement. Imogene, your future-in-law, just got significantly more complicated." "You can't," Grayson started, but Trent spoke over him. "I can, I have, and I'm not done." He looked between the three of them, his expression carved from stone. The photos you just took already uploaded to my cloud storage, thanks tough spyware I had installed on Amara's phone. More evidence of your attempted extortion, more proof of your moral bankruptcy. Daddy, please. Amara's voice had gone small, childlike. We didn't mean, yes, you did. His voice was final. You meant every bit of it, just like your mother meant her. Affairs, just like you meant every manipulation. Well, now you'll face the consequences. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. Oh, and one more thing. The lease on this apartment, it expires tomorrow. I won't be renewing it. You're throwing us out, Cassie gasped. You can't. I can. I am. Consider it the final lesson in consequences. He turned and walked away, leaving them standing in the wreckage of their failed scheme. Grayson was the first to move, grabbing his jacket. This is your fault, he snarled at Amara. You said he'd fold, that he'd give in to protect his reputation. Now my career is ruined. Our fault. Amara's laugh held a note of hysteria. You were a willing participant. You save it. He yanked open the door. I should have known better than to trust either of you. Then he was gone, too, leaving mother and daughter alone in their soon-to-be former apartment. Outside, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across their failed occupant at revenge. Mum, Amara's voice trembled. What are we going to do? Rain pounded against the windows of Trent Hart's corner office, matching his dark mood as he reviewed the surveillance photos spread across his desk. Each image told a story. Cassie with Grayson, staged but suggestive. Amara directing their poses, her phone raised to capture every compromising moment. A family's betrayal documented in high resolution. Sir, his secretary's voice came through the intercom. Your daughter's here. She's quite insistent. Trent gathered the photos into a neat pile. Send her in. Amara burst through the door, her designer clothes replaced by jeans and a simple sweater. Her makeup couldn't quite hide the dark circles under her eyes. The strain of the past 24 hours evident in every movement. How could you? She slammed her hands on his desk, scattering the photos, throwing us out. Really? Sit down. His voice held no warmth, no forgiveness. No, you can't just sit down. Each word felt like a hammer blow. Or security will escort you out and we'll have this conversation through lawyers. Amara sank into the visitor's chair, but her eyes blazed with defiance. We're already homeless, Dad. What more can your lawyers do? Would you like to find out? He leaned forward, studying his daughter's face. Should we discuss the legal implications of attempted extortion, of conspiracy to commit blackmail, of using sexual exploitation for financial gain? We didn't. Don't veto me. He pushed one of the photos toward her. Not with the evidence right here. Not with your voice on tape plotting to destroy my reputation. Tell me, Amara, what was the plan if these photos had worked? Split the profits with Grayson. Used the money to fund your shopping habit while your mother chased her next affair. Color drained from Amara's face. How do you know about the offshore account you set up? Trent's smile was cold. The one you planned to funnel the blackmail money through. I know everything, Amara. Every plot, every scheme, every betrayal. Mum's going to fight you, she said, but her voice wavered. She'd get a lawyer, demand alimony. With what money? He spread his hands. The credit cards are canceled. The accounts are frozen, and every law firm in the state has already been warned about taking cases against me. Professional courtesy you understand." Tears welled in Amores's, but Trent recognized them for what they were. Another manipulation attempt. "Daddy, please. We have nowhere to go. You had a perfectly good apartment. Had you kicked us out? Actions have consequences." He stood, moving to stare out at the rain-soaked city, something neither you nor your mother ever seemed to grasp. You played your games, pushed your schemes, treated loyalty like a commodity to be traded. Well, now you get to experience the other side of betrayal. What do you want? Amara's voice turned, calculating again. "There must be something we can offer." "Offer?" He turned back to face her. "You have nothing left to offer. Nothing I want, nothing I trust, so that's it." She stood, hands shaking. 20 years of buying your daughter means nothing. You stopped being my daughter the moment you started plotting against me. The moment you encouraged your mother's affairs. The moment you decided that manipulating and destroying your father was an acceptable path to financial gain. A knock at the door interrupted them. His secretary entered, looking apologetic. "I'm sorry, Mr. Hart, but Mrs. Hart is here, too. She's threatening to make a scene in the lobby." Perfect timing. Trent nodded. "Send her up. Let's get all our cards on the table." Amara sank back into her chair, fear finally breaking through her defiant facade. "Dad, whatever you're planning. His laugh washish. "I'm not planning anything, Amara. I'm simply letting events take their natural course. You and your mother wanted to play games. Fine, but games have winners and losers, and I never play to lose." Footsteps in the hallway announced Cassie's arrival. She swept into the office like a stormfront, designer purse clutched like a shield. "How dare you throw us out? I've called every hotel in the city, and mysteriously none of them will accept microdit cards." "Sit down, Cassie." Trent's voice could have frozen fire. "Let's discuss exactly how this is going. Top layout." Mother and daughter exchanged glances, united in their desperation, but already fracturing under pressure. The rain intensified outside, drumming against the windows like nature's own countdown to destruction. The game was ending, but Trent Hart was far from finished. He had one final lesson to teach about the true price of betrayal. "You can't do this to us." Cassie paced Trent's office, her heels clicking against the hardwood floors. "I'm still your wife. I have rights. Rights." Trent's laugh cut through the room. "Let's talk about rights, Cassie. Let's talk about my right to not be betrayed. My right to protect myself from a wife and daughter who plotted to destroy me. We wouldn't have had to plot anything if you hadn't frozen our accounts." Amara interjected from her chair. "If you hadn't thrown us into poverty." "Poverty," Trent lifted an eyebrow. "That apartment costs more per month than most Pierpore's mortgage payments. You had food, shelter, basic necessities. But that wasn't enough for either of you, was it? You needed your shopping sprees, your spa days, your endless credit cards. We needed dignity." Cassie whirled to face him. "You humiliated us, forced us to live like normal people." He stood, matching her intensity. "Instead of entitled parasites, living off my work. How terrible for you both." Amara leaned forward, adopting the reasonable tone that had worked so often in the past. "Dad, please. We can work something out. Make a deal. He picked up his phone, tapped a few buttons. Their voices filled the office. "Just think about it, Mum. One afternoon with Grayson, a few strategic photos, and Dad will have to give us everything we want. The rumors aren't enough. We need something concrete. something Dad can't ignore or explain away. These photos will destroy his reputation, force him to negotiate. Trent stopped the playback. That kind of deal, Amara thickened. Will you use my own daughter's boyfriend too? Create a fake scandal where you photograph your mother in compromising positions for blackmail? It wasn't like that, Cassie protested weakly. No, he spread more photos across his desk. Then explain these. Explain my 18-year-old daughter is directing sexual poses between her mother and her supposed boyfriend. Explain how any of this was meant to be anything but destruction. We were desperate. Amara's voice cracked. You left us no choice. There's always a choice. Trent's voice hardened. You chose betrayal, manipulation, exploitation. Now you ghetto choose. How you handle the consequences. What consequences? Cassie demanded. You've already taken everything. Not quite everything. He pressed another button on his phone. Send him in. The office door opened, revealing a man in an expensive suit. Cassie's face went white. Michael, hello, Cassie. Her former lover wouldn't meet her eyes. I'm sorry, but Mr. Hart, Madison compelling arguments about my position at his firm. You're firing him. Amara jumped up. Just because he slept with Mum, firing him. Trent smiled coldly. No. Michael here has been very helpful, haven't you, Michael? Telling me all about Cassie's other affairs, the plans she made, the things she said. About me, about our marriage. You bastard, Cassie whispered. But it wasn't clear whether she meant her husband or her former lover. That's not all, Michael continued, his voice strained. I told Mr. Hart about the offshore accounts, the ones you set up for emergency purposes. Cassie sank into a chair, her legs giving out. You didn't. He did. Trent's satisfaction was palpable. Just like David told me about your plans to divorce me once. Amara turned 21. Just like Thomas revealed, your discussions about taking half my assets. You see, Cassie, your lovers were all quite willing to talk when their careers were at stake. You investigated me. Her voice trembled with rage and fear. I protected myself. Hettoned to Amara. Just like I investigated your little schemes, the credit card fraud, the manipulation of your teachers, the carefully crafted lies you told to get your college recommendations. Amara's face drained off color. How did you know? I've been watching you both for months, recording, documenting, building a case that would stand up in any court. He spread his hands. But we won't need courts, Will. Because you're both going to sign these papers quietly and without protest. He pulled out 2 thick envelopes, sliding them across the desk. Cassie reached for hers with trembling hands. Divorce, settlement. She flipped through the pages. These terms are ridiculous. I get nothing. You get exactly what you deserve. Trent's voice was implacable. A small monthly stipend, conditional on your good behavior. No contact with my firm's employees or clients. No attempts at reconciliation or renegotiation. And me. Amara's voice was small as she read her own papers. You're cutting me off completely. Not completely. You'll get a modest allowance for basic necessities, enough to share a small apartment. With your mother, enough to attend community college if you choose. His eyes were cold. But your dreams of an Ivy League education, your plans for a trust fund, those died the moment you chose to betray me. You can't do this, Cassie whispered, but there was defeat in her voice. Now, it's not legal. It's perfectly legal. Ask Michael. Trent gestured to the still silent man by the door. He reviewed the papers himself, didn't you, Michael? Before you decided that, Keeping your job was more important than keeping Cassie's secrets. Michael nodded miserably. The terms are binding, and given the evidence Mr. Hart has collected, fighting them would only make things worse, much worse. Trent agreed pleasantly. For everyone involved, including young Grayson, whose law school career hangs by a very thin thread at the moment. Amara's head snapped up. What did you do to him? Nothing he didn't bring on himself. Nothing any of you didn't bring on yourselves. Trent sat back in his chair, watching them process their new reality. The question now is, what are you going to do about it? Mother and daughter exchanged glances, their earlier confidence shattered. Outside, the rain continued to fall, matching the tears that had begun to slide down Amara's cheeks. Real ones this time, not the calculated displays of the past. The game was over. They had lost. And Trent Hart was about to show them exactly what that meant. Cassie stared at the divorce papers, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold them. There has to be another way. Some kind of compromise. Compromise died. The moment you brought Grayson into our home, Trent cut her off. The moment you let our daughter photograph your attempted seduction. Speaking of which, he pressed another button on his phone. Send in our other guest. The office door opened again, revealing Grayson. Gone was his usual confident swagger, replaced by barely concealed panic. His expensive suit looked rumpled, his hair disheveled as if he'd been running his hands through it repeatedly. Tell them, Trent commanded. Tell them exactly what you told me this morning. Grayson couldn't meet Amara's eyes. I'm sorry. He had recordings, photos, evidence of everything. Everything. Amara's voice cracked. What do you mean, everything? The truth, Mr. Miller. Trent's voice held no mercy. About your real relationship with my daughter. About your plans for both. Her and her mother. You bastard, Amara whispered, realization dawning. You were playing us the whole time. Not the whole time. Grayson shifted uncomfortably. At first it was real, but then you started talking about using your mother to get to your father's firm, about setting up photos, about blackmail, and you went straight to Daddy Dearest, didn't you? Amara's laugh held a note of hysteria. Sold us out to save your own skin. He came to me weeks ago, Trent revealed, satisfaction evident in his right after you first suggested using him to destroy my reputation, showed me all your text messages, their plans, the schemes, even recorded your conversations about setting up the photos. You son of Amara launched herself at Grayson, but Trent caught her arm. Sit down, he ordered. We're not finished yet. Oh, I think we are. Casa stood, gathering what remained of her dignity. You've made your point, Trent. You win. We'll sign your papers. Live on your pathetic allowance. You still don't get it, do you? Trent released Amara, who slumped back into her chair. This isn't about winning. This is about consequences. About justice. Justice. Cassie's laugh was bitter. You call this justice? Using our own lovers against us, turning everyone we trusted into your spies. No, I call it karma. Trent turned to Grayson. Show them the rest. Grayson pulled out his phone, hands trembling slightly as he pulled up a series of text messages. These are from last week when you first suggested the photo scheme. Amara's face went white as she read the messages. Messages, she thought, had been private messages about using her mother's seduction of Grayson to destroy both her parents. About taking control of the family fortune once her father was disgraced, about making sure her mother ended up with nothing. 2. You were going to betray me. Cassie's voice was barely audible. Your own mother, "Mum, I can explain, save it." Cassie turned away, tears finally breaking through her careful makeup. "I taught you too well, didn't I? Taught you how to manipulate, how to betray, how to destroy the people closest to you." Like mother, like daughter, Trent observed coldly. Each of you plotting against the other, thinking you were so clever, never realizing you were being played. The entire time by everyone. Grayson added quietly, "Michael, David, Thomas, we all reportetto Mr. Hart. Every plan, every scheme, every betrayal." "Why?" Amara demanded, tears streaming down her face now. "Why go through all this? Why not just divorce Mum when you first found out about her affairs? Because you both needed to learn." Trent's voice was implacable. About loyalty, about consequences, about the true price of betrayal. He spread his hands, "And now you have. Your mother's lovers have abandoned her. Your boyfriend has betrayed you. Everyone you thought you could manipulate has turned against you. Poetic justice." Michael commented from his position by the door. "Shut up," Cassie and Amara shouted in unison. "Shut up." Then they looked at each other, the last remnants of their alliance shattering as the full weight of their mutual betrayal sank in. "The papers are there," Trent reminded them. "Sign them and you can begin your new lives. Modest lives, honest lives. Or don't sign them and I'll release everything. The recordings, the photos, the evidence of your schemes. I'm sure the society pages would love to run the story of how the great Trent Hart's wife and daughter tried to destroy him through seduction and blackmail." "You wouldn't," Cassie whispered. "The scandal would be worth it, or see you both face the public consequences of your actions." His smile was terrible to behold. Your choice, mother and daughter stared at each other, all pretense stripped away, each seeing the other clearly for perhaps the first time. Not as allies in their schemes, but as what they truly were. Manipulators who would betray anyone, even family, for their own gain. "I'll sign," Amara said finally, reaching for a pen. "But I want one thing in return. You're not in a position to negotiate." Trent reminded her. "Just tell me one thing." She looked up at her father, tears still streaming down her face. How long have you been planning this?" "Since the first time I caught your mother in a lie," he replied quietly. "Since I saw you learning her tricks, adopting her methods. Since I realized that the two people I loved most in this world would destroy me without a second thought." He turned to the windows, watching the rain continue to fall. "I had to know how far you'd go, how to let you reveal yourselves completely. And you did, beyond my worst expectations." The only sounds in the office were the scratch of pens on paper and the quiet sobs of two women who had lost everything. Not just their wealth and status, but their relationships, their alliance, their carefully constructed web of lies and manipulations. Outside, the sun finally broke through the clouds, casting harsh light on the signed papers that would change their lives forever. The game was over. The price of betrayal had been paid in full. 1 month later, Cassie stood in line at a discount grocery store, counting out crumpled bills to pay for basic necessities. Her designer purse was gone, replaced by a canvas tote. Her perfectly manicured nails were chipped, her roots showing through her expensive dye job. "That'll be $4,327, the cashier announced. Cassie's hands trembled as she counted out the last few dollars. Behind her, someone sighed impatiently. She recognized the sound. She used to make it herself when others held up her line at expensive boutiques. "Here," a familiar voice spoke behind her. "Let me get that." She turned to find Maria, there. former housekeeper, holding out two $20 bills. The same housekeeper who had reported their schemes to Trent, who had helped him gather evidence against them. "I don't need your charity," Cassie snapped, but her voice wavered. "Not charity." Maria's eyes were kind but firm. "Mr. Hart asked me to check on you, make sure you're managing, still watching us." Cassie laughed bitterly, still reporting back to him, still caring despite everything. Maria placed the money on the counter. "He wants to know you're learning, growing, changing. Tell him to go to hell." But Cassie didn't stop the cashier from taking Maria's money, didn't protest when the housekeeper helped her carry the bags to her bus stop. "Where's Amara?" Maria asked. As they waited for the bus, Cassie's face tightened. "Community college, working part-time at a coffee shop. We don't talk much anymore." The betrayal cuts deep, doesn't it? Maria's voice held no judgment. "Finding out your own daughter planned to destroy you, too. Like mother, like daughter," Cassie whispered, echoing Trent's words from that final confrontation. "I taught her too well. Taught her that loyalty means nothing, that everyone's a potential mark, that love is just another tool for manipulation." The bus arrived, but Maria held Cassie's arm before she could board. "It's not too late, you know, Tarchange, to grow, to become someone worthy of trust again." "Why do you care?" Cassie demanded. "After everything wedded, everything we were, because Mr. Hart cares." Maria released her arm. Even after everything, he wants you both to find your way back to being decent people. Not for him, he'll never trust either of you again. But for yourselves. He'll never trust either of you again, but for yourselves. Across town, in a busy coffee shop, Amara wiped down tables and collected used cups. Her designer clothes were replaced by a plain black uniform, her perfectly styled hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. As she worked, she couldn't help overhearing snippets of conversation from nearby business people. People the kind she used to scheme to manipulate. "Did you hear about the Hart case?" One man in an expensive suit asked his companion. "The wife and daughter tried to blackmail him, set up this elaboration with photos, false accusations." "Heard they ended up with nothing," his friend replied. "Serves them right. Trent Hart's one of the most respected lawyers in the state. To think his own family would try to destroy him." Amarashans shook as she collected their empty cups. This was her punishment, she realized. Not just the poverty or thalist opportunities, but having to hear about their shame, their failures, their betrayals from strangers who had no idea she was right there. "Miss," the man in the suit held out his empty sugar packet. "Could you bring me enough?" She nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Once she would have seen this as an opportunity, a wealthy man, a chance to manipulate, to gain something. Now she just felt tired, hollow. "Taking your break," a manager called. From behind the counter, "There's someone asking for you in the back office." Amara's steps were heavy as she made her way to this small office. She stopped short in the doorway when she saw who was waiting. Dad, Trent Hart, stood by the window, looking immaculate in one of his 1,000 suits. "Hello, Amara, come, Toglot." She meant it to sound bitter, but it came out more exhausted than anything. "No." He turned to face her. "Come to see if you're learning." "Learning what?" "How the mighty have fallen. How it feels to be betrayed by everyone you trusted." She sank into the room's only chair. Mission accomplished. "Learning about consequences," he corrected. "About the true cost of treating people like pawns in your games. About what happens when you build your life on manipulation and lies." "I learned from the best," she shot back. "You and me. No. His voice cracked like a whip. Your mother taught you. Manipulation, I taught. Your responsibility, ethics, the value of hard work. You chose which lessons to follow. Tears welled in her eyes. Why are you here? Really? Because you're still my daughter. The words hung between them, heavy with unspoken pain, because despite everything, I want you to become someone better than what your mother taught you to be. It's too late, she whispered. I've lost everything. My future, my friends, my own mother. You lost what you never earned, he corrected. Now you have a chance to build something real, something based on truth, not manipulation, on work, not schemes. Why do you care? She looked upon him, really looked at him for the first time in months. After what we tried to do to you, because that's what real love is, Amara. His voice softened slightly. Not the conditional affection your mother taught you to trade like a currency. Not the manipulative games you learned to play. Real love means wanting better for someone. Even when they've hurt you, even when they don't deserve it, you move toward the door, then paused. Your college fund isn't completely gone. You know, it's in trust, waiting, not for the Ivy League dreams you used to have, but for when you prove you're ready to use education for growth, not just as another tool for manipulation. How will you know? Her voice was small, childlike. If I've changed, oh, I'll know. He met her eyes-on last time. The question is, will you? After he left, Amara sat alone in the small office, listening to the bustle of the coffee shop beyond the door. She thought about her mother somewhere across town, probably still plotting her next move, still seeing every interaction as a potential game towing. She thought about Grayson, who had played them both so perfectly, using their own tactics against them. About the father, who had orchestrated their downfall not out of cruelty, but out of a desperate hope that they might learn, might change, might grow. The manager called her name, reminding her that tables needed clearing, customers needed real work, honest work, the kind she used to look down on. She stood, straightened her simple uniform, and walked back into the shop. Across town, in his corner office, Trent Hart sat at his desk, looking at a family photo from happier times. He opened his bottom drawer, placed the photo inside, and locked it away. Some bridges couldn't be rebuilt. Some betrayals went too deep for forgiveness. But maybe, just maybe, from the ashes of their destruction, something new could grow. Not forgiveness, never that, but perhaps understanding, growth, change. The price of betrayal had been paid in full. Now, it was up to them to decide what to build in its